What is up, everybody? Welcome to another edition of Drive for Show, DFS for Dough here on RotoGrinders. I am Justin Van Zuiden, aka STL Cardinals 84, here to host the show as usual for you. And I have my usual co-host Notorious alongside me as well, Derek Farnsworth. We saw another win from Tony Finau last week. There were always these weeks where we just bet him. He was going to win. He's going to win. Keep betting Tony Finau, and now it's finally paid off. 2 weeks, when I had kind of stopped betting Tony Finau every week. But good for him getting another win and really looking dominant there on Sunday and effectively cruising to victory on the back nine. No real mistakes. And, now he just looks like an old-fashioned closer there, Tony Finau. So, Noto, how's it going? Another Finau win.
Yeah, I'm right there with you with Finau. I was betting him for years and years and too many top five finishes. Same goes for Xander, too. I mean, I missed out on both of his wins this year. So, missing out on some paydays with outright bets. But you mentioned it. I mean, I think his Sunday round scoring average is top 5 on tour this season. So, whatever he's done to improve his game, mostly the putting on Sunday. He's made so many putts the last 2 weeks on Sunday. And, ran away from the field. Kind of got that feeling, halfway through Saturday's round that this was his tournament to lose. Pendrith was great, but just felt like, Tony had another gear in him, and that's what we saw on Sunday.
Yeah, so another win for Finau as he looks to climb up as we head into the FedEx Cup Playoffs. Of course, this week is the last event before those playoffs start. The top 125 golfers in the standings will make the playoffs starting next week. And Finau, with the win, jumped from 17th to 7th. And Cam Young, another impressive finish for him. He jumped from 13th to 9th. So he is inside the top 10. Just an incredible amount of top 5 finishes without getting that victory. For Cam Young, but still an impressive week for him. And what else did you take away from last week?
Yeah, I believe Cam Young now has 5 runner-up finishes, I heard, which leads the tour. Kind of crazy. You got to think, him and or, Zalatoris is going to get that win here soon. But you mentioned, the best case possible for the PGA Tour last week. Young Gun and Cam Young, you had Cantlay up there on Sunday. A lot of big names, a lot of young stars, and one thing we can, know for sure moving forward is Detroit Golf Club is a bomber's paradise. Guys were hitting at 350 regularly off the tee. You could miss the fairways and still, have a good shot into the greens, look at birdies. So, yeah, something to keep in mind, heading into next year, I guess.
Yeah, for sure. And as we look at the standings, obviously mentioned the top 125 and ties. We'll get into the FedEx Cup playoffs. Right now, you've got Ryan Brehm, Tyler Duncan, Matthias Schwab, Patton Kizzire, and Stuart Sink as your last 5 players in. And you're going to see most of these guys that are kind of on the bubble of the playoff line. They're going to be in the field this week trying to either maintain or improve their status. The next 5 out beyond the top 125 are Webb Simpson at 126, going to a course that he loves this week. And these are actually going to change. These are actually a little bit different because I think these include the live guys because Pat Perez is listed on here at 127. So I think a few people are going to get a bump up because I believe I read earlier today that Ricky Fowler is 123 and he shows at 133 on this list that I'm looking at. So PGA Tour from their official list hasn't removed the live guys yet. So anyway, the first guys I mentioned are probably a little bit safer, but guys like Nick Taylor, Kramer Hickok, Ricky Fowler, Matt Wallace are right there kind of on the teetering line of making the playoffs. Anyway, we've talked about the motivation angle with this tournament before, and it doesn't really seem to move the needle all that much. Maybe too much pressure is bad for some of these guys. So somewhat of a grain of salt, but are you putting any stock into those FedEx Cup standings this week?
No, I don't think so. If I like a guy, I like a guy. There's going to be guys that make big pushes, and it's going to be the narrative, oh, this guy, took home a top 5 finish to sneak his way in. But there's also going to be guys that, are right on the bubble that don't play well. So I don't think, extra pressure is necessarily good or bad. It's probably a a personal thing for most of the golfers, but maybe somebody like Webb, who's obviously going to be in a good spot this week anyway. But yeah, I don't put too much stock into it. Do you?
No, I mean, I probably did for a few years more than I have the last couple. So just doesn't seem like it has made that much of a difference over the past few years. You maybe get 2 or 3 spots that change hands this final week. I can't find the list. That's driving me nuts that the FedEx Cup official standings page is actually not the official standings right now. Maybe that's if I click on live FedEx Cup playoffs eligibility. There we go. Now we've got the full list with the players removed. All right, so we're in business now. Nick Taylor, Chesson Hadley, Kramer Hickok, Ricky Fowler, Matt Wallace, Austin Smotherman are your last 6 in right now. Max McGreevy, Danny Willett, Justin Lower, Nick Hardy, Cameron Champ, your first 5 or 6 players outside the playoff line. For those of you who do want to play that angle, those are the players that could move one way or the other this week. Any other takeaways from last week? I mean, obviously Pendrith disappointed that he couldn't put it together a bigger challenge on Sunday. Big push from Tom Kim got him up there inside the top 10. Matt Wallace, who I mentioned earlier on that playoff line, inside the top 10, and Charlie Hoffman with a 10th place finish last week. So it was a wild cut sweat. Lots of guys, lots of chalk right on the cut line on Friday afternoon. And then you saw Tom Kim end up parlaying that into a 7th place finish. And then Will Zalatoris, who barely squeaked through the cut, ended up with a T20. So it was a cut sweat that either it went your way or it didn't go your way last week.
Yeah, and Tom Kim, I think he missed a 3-footer on his 17th hole on Friday. And then on the 200-yard par 3 9th, stuck it to 5 feet and birdied it to get in on the number and then went on that big run. So, man, it's just the importance of 6-6 just seems, heightened in these birdie fests. We're going to have another one this week. And my only other note, I mean, Kevin Kisner, come on. We finally overpaid for him at one of his tournaments, and he does that to us.
And he just doesn't show up. So glad I went against the numbers for once and let it burn me. So now I won't play him the next 10 years at that event, and he'll go back to being a superstar again. But,
I mean, we got to talk about him this week too.
Such is life on DFS golf for sure. And so with a lot of that chalk making the cut last week, it kind of did skew the contest results. I mean, if the cut would have gone from 3 under to 4 under, it really would have basically kicked the 6-6 percentage down to about nothing. Instead, had a few more lineups and quite a few guys make a run on Sunday. So, all right, anything else? Ready to pivot forward to the Wyndham?
Yeah, I'm ready to move on. I didn't have a very good week of DFS. What about you?
I ended up unintentionally, but I kind of took the week off. I was getting ready to build some lineups on Wednesday night, and then I fell asleep, and then most of the big contests were full, and I thought, well, good week to take a little bit of a break, and with the results, it was probably a good thing based on the fact that, there would have been a few players like Kisner that were in my player pool. I kind of had my player pool set. That would have missed the cut. So don't think I would have won much last week, although I would have had a lot of Cam Young and a lot of Cantlay. Probably would have been underweight on Finau. So the week was a 0 for me, and I guess that's okay.
Yeah, much respect for taking a week off. I mean, I can't
it
even
wasn't
sit out
intentional though.
can't even sit out the Hero World Challenge. I love the golf too much.
I resisted the urge to tilt to enter a bunch of showdown contests. After the full week ones were full. But in any case, we'll make sure to get the lineups reserved and ready to go for this week with the Wyndham and another event that, we traditionally see. Lots of data, course data here on Sedgefield. So what do the golfers have in store this week?
Yeah, so we got Sedgefield in North Carolina. It's par 70. The measures just over 7,100 yards. It's another Donald Ross design, but very different than what we saw last week. The fairways here are a lot thinner, 29 yards wide on average. There's definitely more of a penalty if you do miss them. There's a lot of forced layups off the tee. And like Kevin Kisner said, everyone's going to be playing from the same spots on the fairway. And that's kind of why he likes it so much. He likes his chances from, 125 to 175 and in. That's kind of the two big approach distribution shots that you're going to be seeing. So yeah, if you want to look at proximity from those numbers, I don't mind it. The greens are going to be very easy to hit, 77% on average over the last couple of years, second highest on the PGA Tour. So when that happens, it generally turns into a putting contest. And yeah, we've seen Kevin Kisner, JT Poston, Brandt Snedeker all win here in the last 4 years. 3 of the better putters on Bermuda greens. So yeah, I do think putting is going to be important. I think iron play is going to be important, and yeah, that's pretty much it for me. Water is in play on 6 of the holes. 5 of the last 6 winners have been at least 21 under par. So again, it's going to be a birdie fest.
And was weather a thing last year? Last year was only -15, but I can't remember.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I just remember the 6-man playoff.
Yeah,
trying to watch that on Shot Tracker. There was new colors. I'd never seen some of the colors on Shot Tracker.
six golfer group. What is this? Yeah, Kisner, Siwoo Kim, Kevin Na, Adam Scott, Brandon Grace, and Roger Sloan, part of a 6-way playoff. Grace, Na, and Kisner advanced to the second hole, and then Kisner won. Pretty remarkable that they finished a 6-way playoff in 2 holes, but that's they did. And, the scores were pretty bunched up. There were quite a few guys at -13. So maybe just a little bit of a fluke that nobody made a few extra birdies to get that up to 17, 18, 19 under. It's not like the scoring in general was super difficult. You still had, 34 golfers finish at least 10 under. The scores were just bunched together, which, again, you can see on a course like this one. Just because, there's lots of people landing in the same spots as Derek just alluded to. So anything else on the course or this tournament in general before we dig in?
Sorry, I was muted there for a minute.
Yep, couldn't tell if I lost you or if you were muted.
I do remember Adam Scott missed a 3-footer on the first playoff hole. He was the only one with a good birdie look and missed it. And then
That's
Kisner,
right.
Kisner loves those match play settings. So no surprise to see him win, but don't know what to do with him this week. I'm already lost in that regard.
All right, let's go ahead and dig in. And we've got another week with Will Zalatoris on a fairly easy course, so we get to have that debate. Almost missed the cut last week, ended up sneaking through, and then played well on the weekend. So the debate shall continue. Webb Simpson getting a lot of respect for his history here, which is very good compared to his season so far, which has not been very good. Lowry, Im, and Horschel, your other names above 10K. So lots of guys taking this week off with the playoffs starting next week. This is a pretty weak field. So what do we make of these 10K plus golfers, and do we need to prioritize one of them?
Yeah, I'm not sure how stacked the field was last year, but some of the good guys at Discord were talking about Webb's ownership. I think he was up to 45, 50% in single entry and 33% in like the big $20 or whatever it was. So, I mean, obviously
you're talking last year at this event.
Yeah, last year at this event.
Not last year.
5 straight top 7s here. But obviously, he's not in nearly as good a form. He hasn't been putting that well this year. The irons haven't been very good. Around the green, he's kind of trending in the wrong direction. He's never been a great driver of the ball. So I'm lost with Webb. I wanted to get your take on him. But I do like Shane Lowry up here. He's just been a top 15 machine. He's finished top 25 in 13 of his last 16 events. So the floor for him is really high. Sung Jae's another guy that I have my eye on. 3 straight top 25s here. So similar course history as Webb, just not as many appearances. He's coming off of a second place finish, and his numbers look a lot better if you just look at the stats on paper than Webb's. So those would be my top 2. This is a place where I like to play some Billy Horschel, back on Bermuda greens, and he has a good course history. He's also got 3 straight top 11s here. So a lot of guys with good course history. I think Zalatoris, I'm going to be underweight, similar to how I was last week. I just don't know if he can make enough birdies to kind of contend in an event where it's going to be 20, 25 under par. It does look like the wind's going to be calm all 4 days. So, yeah, I think you're going to have to make a lot of putts, and that always worries me with Will Zalatoris.
Yeah, I don't know at that salary. I mean, I'm usually kind of a course history guy, but at that salary, I just can't make that good of a case for Webb right now. It's literally only the course history it's really the only leg you have to stand on. I mean, otherwise, he's not going to grade out as well in terms of statistical modeling for any reason, because it just hasn't been that good of a year. He's barely inside that playoff line. and he's $10,700 on DraftKings. Like, if he was 9K or 9,200, a different story. But I think that this is just inflated with his course history, and I don't think I can do it. And it makes me a little uncomfortable because that's the opposite of the way I kind of usually handle cases like this. But I don't know. At 10-7 for Webb, I just think that's too much.
Yeah, I'm kind of on the same boat. I'll have some in my MME build, but I think I'm not going to use him in my main lineup, which is probably going to be, contrary to what the field's going to do.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, just dollar for dollar and fit for the course. I think you save the $100 and start with Lowry if you want somebody up there for safety.
Yep. What are you doing with the other 10K guys?
Yeah, don't mind targeting Horschel here as well. Still TBD on Zalatoris. I mean, probably underweight, but I was encouraged at least by the way that he finished last week. And if I'm going to be out on Webb, maybe I play a little Zalatoris. I don't have a strong take on Sungjae, but Lowry and Horschel I'll definitely play some of, and definitely underweight on Webb and maybe the X button, depending on what our ownership says. But it's just a bit odd because the field's so weak that we're just not used to talking about these guys at such a high salary.
You know what's going to happen with Zalatoris? He's going to make it to the Tour Championship, and he's going to, win the event in stroke play, but he's not going to win in the points, and that'll be his first, kind of technical win. Yeah,
that'll be befitting for that to be the way that his season ends for sure after all those close calls. And we get into the 9Ks. It's another week where the pricing is a little bit different on DraftKings with the weak field. We've also only got 5 golfers between 9 and 10K. With Henley, Connors, Hatton, Adam Scott, and Varner. And if you didn't follow Adam Scott last week, we talked about him on the show, and it was, who knows what tournaments Adam Scott cares about and which ones he doesn't. Well, if you just look at the leaderboard, you don't really notice anything. Adam Scott finished 37th, fine. But Adam Scott's 37th place finish was 69, 66, 78, 65. And the 78, he lost 5.6 strokes putting in one round, which is one of the biggest numbers you'll ever see. I remember Keith Mitchell having a big 6 or 7 stroke round, but that was a tournament where he busted his putter over his knee or something and threw it in a lake, and then he putted with a wedge. But Adam Scott, in true Adam Scott fashion, lost almost 6 strokes putting and then gained over a stroke and a half putting on Sunday. So it's just really weird. I noticed his putting splits for the week and his 78-65 finish, and thought, well, that was a wild ride. So your thoughts on the 9K golfers here?
Yeah, that third round was pretty crazy. He was really high owned in Showdown too because he was playing so well.
He was high owned in the third round because he was up near the top.
Yeah.
And then nobody played him in the
nobody
final
had him Sunday. Yeah. That's how it
Sounds
works.
about right.
But it's strange to see him play 2 weeks in a row. And if he's going to keep playing, he's going to be playing at least 3 or 4 weeks in a row, depending on where he is in the FedEx Cup standings. But maybe that'll be good for him. He just is a guy that usually plays the big events. Obviously, lost in the playoff here last year. So I'll have some Adam Scott. He's actually turned into a really good putter the last couple of years, even though a lot of his short misses are certainly ugly. But he does make a lot of long ones. I like Russell Henley at the top of the range, back-to-back top 10s at this event. And then last week, he was great. I mean, he gained 11 strokes tee to green, finished 10th, even though he lost strokes putting. And he typically prefers Bermuda over the other surfaces. So I do like him on this course. I think Corey Connors is interesting, just an elite ball striker. And then I'm looking at a bunch of different comps this week, like short par 70s. I'm looking at some courses that kind of fit the mold. I'm looking at just Bermuda, and he's like top 5 in all of these different categories. So I do like Corey Connors as well at 9,600. And then at the very bottom, I'll have some Harold Varner. Very boomer bust, but he's only played once in the last 5 weeks. So I think he's going to be more rested than most of the guys in this field. And he's another one of those guys that, he can pop up, he can finish in the top 10, and generally doesn't garner a ton of ownership when he's overpriced like this.
Yeah, he has made the cut each of the last 5 years here with 2 top 10s. So I like Varner as a contrarian play too as well. I've tagged him up, getting him tagged up as a tournament play this week at 9K. In general, I like most of the guys in this range. I usually don't pay up for Hatton at that salary. I'll probably continue that this week. Adam Scott, jury's still out on that after that putting performance last week. Has me a little bamboozled with how to handle him, but do like Varner as my favorite tournament play at the bottom of that range. And I do think Henley is somewhat interesting as well. Let's see. Any other thoughts on those guys? I think we covered it. Again, only 5 guys in the 9K range. I do start to get a little bit more volume at the kind of 8K range and up. We've got one guy at each price point in the higher end of the 8K range. So Denny McCarthy at 8,900 exactly. Siwoo Kim at 8,800. I mentioned he was in that playoff here last year. Kevin Kisner, who won that playoff at 8,700. And then 2 guys who played well last week in Ju Young Kim and Taylor Pendrith, rounding out 8,600 and 8,500 respectively. So any strong takes on those options? And I don't know if I can go back to Kisner after last week.
Yeah, Kisner's tough. I mean, you got the defending champ narrative as well. It worked out pretty well for Cam Davis last week, but right above him, I like Siwoo Kim. He's had progressively better finishes here each of the last 3 years, 5th, 3rd, and then 2nd, like you mentioned. So he's been playing some good golf finally. He doesn't have a lot of top 10s this year, but back-to-back top 15s at the Open and then last week as well. And then McCarthy let a lot of people down, missed the cut last week. And I just don't really like McCarthy on those long courses that have 4 par 5s. I like him on short courses, only 2 par 5s, just like this one, where everybody's going to be playing from the same spots in the fairway. And if it turns to a putting contest, you want the guys that make a lot of putts, and he's certainly one of them. He's got a good track record here. And then moving down, I'm playing Brian Harmon. Bill Tomas in the chat says Harmon's going to win this week. Yeah, I agree with that. Let's get that done. He is, what is he in? You can get him at 40-1. So not the best number for a guy that hasn't won in a while, but seems very safe. He's been playing his best golf of the season. And then at the very bottom, I like Justin Rose. He's not a guy that garners a ton of ownership usually, and he burned a lot of people at the Open. He withdrew after lock with the back injury. But if you look at his numbers from 125 to 175, he is one of the best in the field. Finished 10th here last year. And I think he's like 98th in the Fedex Cup standings, something like that. So if he wants to advance and take a big paycheck, he's going to have to get going a little bit.
All right. Look at the big green on those model numbers from Brian Harmon this week there for Noto. I'm fine with the momentum from the guys that have been playing well at the top end of that range. I don't play Siwoo Kim a whole lot, but hard to ignore that solid finish last week and the course fit with the way that he has played here. So I think I'm in on Siwoo Kim for the first time in a long time this week. And then, you got the hit or miss guys at the bottom. I was fine going back to the well on a lot of those guys that struggled 2 weeks ago last week, like Tigala, who had a pretty good week going until he didn't play well over the weekend. But Riley was the one guy who kind of let everybody down 2 weeks in a row. Would definitely be GPP only at this point with Riley. But, the guys that are like the bigger hitters, say a Pendrith, does that worry you on a course like this with the guys who maybe haven't played here a whole lot, but did show out well last week? Pendrith would be the big example there.
Yeah, I don't think I'm playing any Pendrith. I do think he'll be probably not way popular just because the course fit isn't as good as last week. But yeah, I just don't think this nearly sets up as well. This is more of a plotter's course. A lot of veterans play well here every single year. So yeah, instead of the young guns, I'm kind of going with the older Harmon types. So maybe I'm talking myself back into Webb, but I like Seabez in this range if you want a lower owned guy. Always plays well in par 70s. Really high floor, one of the higher cut rates in the field. So I'll take Seabez over Pendrith and Riley and those guys.
All right. I don't mind that call as well. A little gun shy on the bigger hitters for myself this week. I think Rose is definitely interesting. He's the one guy that I'm curious to see where ownership shakes out. Seems like most people just are kind of anti-Rose these days. Everyone just assumed he was going to live, and maybe he ends up there at some point, but he's not there yet. So I think Rose is interesting at the bottom end of the range if that projected ownership stays pretty low. If it ends up being high, then I might stay out. But he's one guy I think I'll let the ownership dictate how much of him I want to play this week. All right, let's move to the mid to upper 7K range. A lot of guys in here that maybe just haven't been playing as well lately. But then there are still some names that have seen some ownership in recent weeks. Goddard being the big example. He's back in the field this week. What do you make of the 7.6 to 7.9K range?
Again, I'm kind of going with the guys that, hit fairways and can make putts. So I like Brendan Todd at 7,500. Finished 10th here last year. Best putter in the field on Bermuda greens. I like Adam Long, who's been playing really well. 4 straight top 25s for him. He's another guy that's very good on the greens. And then at the top, Mark Hubbard, he had a really bad Friday and missed the cut barely last week. So I'll drop back on him. He was playing great before the missed cut. He had a 4th, a 3rd, and a 13th. Scott Stallings, 3 top 10s in a row, which is kind of crazy. He's kind of turned into more of a bomber, but if you look at his approach numbers, they are some of the best in the field over the last 4 months. He's also a pretty good putter. So, and Bill in the chat says Todd is gross. He's fine at this course. He's not good at a lot of courses, but I like him at this course. And then I'll have a little bit of Munoz, a little bit of Strillman, but no very strong takes in this range. What about you?
About the same. I mean, I do think that this is maybe the week to get off the Goddard train, particularly if the steam keeps up. I mean, I don't know how many times I saw that 370-yard drive to 4 feet for the Eagle. I mean, he finished 49th last week, but I think this is a course where maybe we can temper those expectations a little bit. So I do think this is a spot where you can maybe pivot off the chalk a little bit. I don't think there's a lot of guaranteed top finishes in this range. So, don't be afraid to pivot from the ownership. I think Streelman's interesting. I think, let's see, if you kind of go down towards the bottom end of the range, I talked about him last week, but I'm not sure what else Callum Tarrant has to do to get a price bump. He's been bumped a whole $200 after another top 20 last week. So as we go down to the bottom end of the 7K range, I mean, I'm just going to keep playing Callum Tarrant until he he gives us a reason not to. That's one of the players, at least over the last couple months, that I've gotten right more often than not. So you can go ahead and move down the range a little bit too if you want.
Yeah, I love that call. And I believe if you do want to play the FedEx Cup narrative, he is 118 or something right now. He'll probably get bumped up to like 110 after you take the live guys out. But
yeah, he's 109 now.
Okay, yeah. So he's going to have to play, at least decently well, I would imagine. At least, made cut will probably get the job done. So I like that. He seems like a great guy too, which is always fun. Moving up a little bit, CT Pan always rates out well for me on these shorter courses. He nearly won here back in 2018, and he was kind of popular last week, and he was nearly dead last. So I think that'll help temper some ownership. I don't love a lot in the bottom end of the range. I mean, Tyler Duncan seems to be a good course fit. I'm going to play a little bit of Harris English just because when he's healthy, this is probably a good course setup for him. But his ball striking has been so bad since he's come back from injury. But I'll play a little bit of him. And that's about it.
Missed cut by 1 last week. So
Bill's asking about Champ. I put him in the same category as Pendrith and Goddard, and that their biggest weapon is going to be neutralized a little bit here. So I'm off of Champ.
Yeah, same. I think I'm off of him this week. Again, didn't end up playing, but would have played some of him last week and ended up with a solid finish despite a really rocky second round. He did get off to a good enough start to make the cut and then kind of struggled after that. But, you get into some of these are some guys I think that are interesting because these are players that we're kind of used to being priced around here. I mean, we're used to Aaron Rai, Doug Gim, Grayson Sigg, Patrick Rogers, Joel Damon. We're used to these guys being priced in the low 7K. So it's just kind of a bunched up field. It's not that it's super weak at the bottom. It's just not super strong at the top. So, I saw somebody post this earlier today. What's happened to all the long shot winners on the PGA Tour? Like, we haven't seen one over 60-1 in like 3 months. So, who knows? We get a long shot winner this week. What do you think?
Yeah, I'll take it. I'll be betting some long shots. So if it's on my card, I'm okay with it.
Well, who's the favorite early week long shot bet?
Ooh, Give me a minute. Let's answer that after the 6Ks.
Okay, we'll go down into anything else above 7,000. Ricky Fowler, 7,000. Got to make the cut to make the playoffs.
No, I do owe Svensson an apology, though. I said last week I don't trust him to make a bunch of 7-footers, but he had gained strokes putting in 8 straight events before last week, and he's one of the better iron players in the field too. So I actually like Svensson at 7,500.
All right, let's go ahead and move down into that 6K range. It does kind of fall off a little bit down here, but you've got Schwab, who's kind of right there in that playoff race. And just, some guys down here that are maybe a little bit hit or miss, but anything you like for punt value here early in the week.
The models always love Schwab, so I'll have a little bit of him. I think he's missed 3 straight cuts on the number, or at least made the cut and then, fell back on the weekend. Ryan Armour has been very good here over the years. He has 4 top 25s in the last 5 years. Just kind of fits the mold of the Brendan Todd, Webb Simpson types where you're going to hit the fairway and make a lot of putts. Same goes for Brian Stewart, who has played well here over the years. And then after that, it's pretty ugly. I don't really like anybody. David Skins has been making some cuts.
What's Armour's recent form?
So Armour and Stewart have missed their last 9 cuts combined. So
ouch.
Yeah.
That'll make them contrarian for sure.
Yeah, I mean, it's just more of a price, and both of them are pretty decent birdie makers on these shorter courses.
All right. So again, FedEx Cup standings, final week to get inside that top 125. Cameron Champ is at 130, probably needs a really good week. Nick Hardy at 129. Gligic is down here. He's at 132. If you look in Stewart, 137, Lebioda 139. So these guys are going to probably have to pop for top 5s if they want to make it inside the FedEx Cup playoffs. But again, not a super exciting field this week because you're going to see the top golfers are basically going to be playing in the playoffs each of the next 3 weeks with the playoff events, which again, if you're not familiar, top 125 make it to next week. And then that will be the FedEx St. Jude, which is kind of the FedEx St. Jude used to be just a regular tour event. Then they tried to make it a WGC event, which really wasn't a good fit. And now they've moved it for the moment to be the first playoff event. So that'll be in Memphis next week for the top 125. Then they cut it down to 70 for the BMW Championship, which is in Delaware this year. And then the Tour Championship the following week is the top 30 and it'll be a weird format where the person leading in the standings gets to start with a nice head start, like 12 under or something like that. And then they kind of ladder back the starting positions. That's how they work it to benefit the players who are higher up in the standings to start the event. Anyone else? We move through pretty quick here tonight, but it's just that nature of the field for us this week. So let's check the chat to see if anybody else has commented or asked a question. I don't think so. I think we've gotten through them all. So anything else from your side?
Well, so I was looking for my long shot bet, and we didn't talk about Keith Mitchell.
Oh, that's right.
I need to hear your take on your boy Mitchell.
Yeah, I don't mind it back on Bermuda. I always like him on little courses that are a little more open. But yeah, I think he's made the cut 2 or 3 trips here. He could be dead last or he could be top 10. I mean, he's the perfect long shot kind of boomer bust guy. So I don't mind him.
Yeah,
what's
60
his
to
odds?
1.
You got that handy?
60 to 1. I was going to go with Rose. If 50 to 1 is big enough for a long shot, I'll take Rose.
All right. Be sure to shop around. I did notice if you are betting this week, they'll obviously kind of condense and combine as we get closer to Thursday, but there were quite a few discrepancies in odds between the sports books today, Monday afternoon when I was kind of looking at it. So, if a guy's 50 to 1 someplace and 60 to 1 another, if you've got options, different books you can bet at, always good to shop around for those a little bit as well. So, all right. With that, we'll go ahead and get out of here, and we'll be back next week for the first event of the FedEx Cup playoffs. Thanks to our producer, Steve, for working hard behind the scenes for us. I am Justin, and for Noto, we hope you have a great week. Good luck with all your lineup building, everybody, and we will chat with you later. Have a good one.